Revenue point of view, the quiet day was $1,500 revenue. The busiest days were more like four over those 4 days.
Have you ever wondered how in the heck to balance a full-time job, family life, and still find success with your CNC side hustle? If so, today you are in luck. Today I'm excited to introduce Paul from Bees Boards. Along with his wife, they built an incredible CNC business that I can't wait to share with you, all while juggling the demands of a day job and raising a family. In just 3 short years, they've reached the point of selling at the third largest craft show in the US. Paul and B's story is full of practical tips and real world strategies that they have used and learned to turn their passion into a thriving side hustle. You won't want to miss the insights and inspiration that Paul shares with us today. I met Paul and B 3 years ago when they joined my community, the CNC Inner Circle. Since then, we've talked for hours about CNC business. You're going to hear all about that today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go back to the beginning of your CNC interest. You didn't have a CNC yet. What first sparked your interest in like, hey, that got my attention. That could be cool.
It was the possibility to do different stuff. So we had been making charcuterie boards, and we'd gone out and bought all the pre-made plexiglass or plastic templates that everybody was selling and making charcuterie boards. And we were at fairs, and we would see other makers with the same handles and the same profiles, and it would be like, okay, if we got a CNC, we could do shapes. We can do hearts, circles, you name it. You can do any shape you want. So it was the possibility to be different to everyone else around us, to be able to offer stuff that was completely unique. And then there's products that you just didn't want to make by hand. You would want to be able to batch it out on a CNC. So if you go into a craft fair, you could have 12 of them and not have to make every single one of them manually. So yeah, that was where it started for us. Was we wanted to be different to people around us, offer new things, and to be able to make them in a much higher volume than we were at the time.
Cool. So you were already woodworking, making charcuterie boards before CNC entered the picture.
About 6 months, maybe not even that.
Okay.
So we started making cutting boards just with a little portable DeWalt table saw, a jigsaw, a router bit on a router table, like a tabletop router table, not even a fancy one. So we were already doing cutting boards and charcuterie boards like that, just in a small garage space. And it was okay if we park the car outside full time and put a CNC table in here, then the business is going to change and be totally different to what it was looking like at the time.
That's it's very common. Like if I think back to the beginning, I started a lot of the same way, and it was to do something different that everybody else wasn't doing. And because buying a table saw, the barrier to entry of buying a table saw is a lot lower than buying a CNC.
Right. We weren't woodworkers prior to that. Like we're a family of makers. We've always been making random stuff, 3D printing, crochet, all kinds of things. So when we started the woodworking, we were brand new to it. So we didn't really have a picture in our head of what the limitations or the possibilities were either way. So when we had a few tools, we just made the things we could make with a few tools. And then going to a CNC was just like, here's this machine that offers like unlimited opportunity to build new things and do it in different shapes, and people can custom request a logo or a sign, and it's so much easier to make than trying to do it by hand and learn all the skills and the techniques and the effort that goes into learning how to do something like sign making by hand. And that's a real skill and a real talent, and somebody needs to be dedicated to it. And we wanted to make all the things, just the excitement of new woodworkers. We want to make everything. And the CNC makes it, takes a lot of that barrier to entry out as well.
Yeah, and introduces other barriers of entry.
Yes, it does. Well, I felt okay with that because I've got a background in 3D printing. So I'm used to 3D modeling software and playing with STL files and resizing things and keeping, building layers and working with that kind of technologies that when you get playing with Vectric or whatever CNC software you end up with, you have to figure out.
Hey, real quick, something you might not know, there are over 100 ready-to-use CNC projects on my website with toolpaths all ready to set up. This makes creating cool projects on your CNC as simple as possible, because I get it, your CNC time is valuable and we all want to make cool things with the limited time we have in the shop. Here are just a few of my favorite projects that you can make. So whether you want to save time, frustration, or use them as an example on how I set up my toolpaths, they're here to make your life easier. If you're interested, there'll be a link in the description. But first, let's get back to this interview with Paul as he drops some amazing tips. Let's get back to it.
So it didn't feel like a massive barrier to entry to learn. Obviously the risk with a piece of wood flying off a CNC table is a bit different to a melted blob of plastic on a 3D printer, but it's the same. It's just a big one.
Yeah. So you got started, what was the biggest learning curve you experienced?
Right up front, of course, the starting is just learning how to work with the woods. I mean, that's as woodworkers getting into the woodworking, that was new to us. So that was a fun, exciting prospect of mixing woods together, using the right things, doing the right things. But then as the business started to grow, it was how to make things people want and how to sell them. I mean, you've talked about it endlessly on your channel, but pricing things so you don't go broke in the first 6 months, going to the right places. We watched all the YouTube. We watched YouTube University endlessly to figure all these different things out. Still figuring a lot of these different things out. But so the barrier to entry to selling was a big deal for us and new to us. And then the woodworking stuff in general.
Is there any specific? I know you talked about going to YouTube University, but is there any specific, like someone that's in that situation where, hey, I don't even know how to glue two boards together? Would you recommend just going to YouTube, or are there other things that you found helpful to overcome those obstacles?
So for us, it's all YouTube. So I mean, all that information's out there. There are dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds of YouTube channels that are varying qualities that teach you how to make a cutting board from scratch. And from there, once you know how to make your wood straight and glue it together in a way that's correct, and then finish it in a way that's good, then your ability to build anything you want can go up. So you start the basics. I mean, we have, like I say, we had no woodworking background. My dad wasn't a woodworker. I didn't grow up in a wood shop. I didn't take wood class in school. For both of us, we were in at the beginning. We were in at nothing. So we bought the crap from Home Depot and then found out that wasn't right and went to a lumber mill and had that deer in the headlamps first moment in a lumber mill when you're looking at floor to ceiling racks going, what the hell is all this? We did all that.
They start talking about things that you're just like, what?
Oh yeah,
I
a
don't
board
know.
foot. I mean, what the hell? How much a board foot? What's a board foot? All that whole world was new to us. It's all YouTube for us. I mean, there's, like I say, there's millions of channels that do it. I mean, I know for some people they prefer a more hands-on, one-on-one kind of mentorship approach, and they'll pick up classes or whatever, and that's fine too. But for us, we'd sit down in an evening, we'd fire up YouTube, see where the algorithm took us, we'd favorite our favorite people, and that's how we ended up obviously in your radar, as we followed your channel quite heavily. We had maybe a half dozen that are still on our subscribed list and some that dropped off, and content quality is wild all over YouTube. Some are fantastic, some is amazingly
so that's what I took a very similar path, and that's the even today when I want to learn about something and I go to YouTube, that's the frustrating part about YouTube, right? Is it's out there, and it's like you have to sift through all this. I don't want to call people's content junk, but you have to sift through all of this non-applicable, low quality content and to get what you need.
Yeah.
and then you don't, at that point, you don't know what you need
Right. And you've got to
necessarily.
watch hours of it to figure out how to spot that.
Yep.
Because if
Yep.
you just start out, you watch somebody do something, you go replicate that, you get a different result, you don't know why.
Yep.
So we'd watch a dozen people do something, and then we'd go and try some variation of what they all did,
Yeah.
and get our own results. But by then, you've got a bit of a baseline. You can
Right.
look at a project that's just broken on the table and be like, okay, why'd that happen? Well, and then
Yep.
go ask a forum. We did. I mean, 2 years ago, the
Yeah.
sort of stuff we were posting in your Discord channel was, very basic. Why did my bit slip?
Right. Right.
Stuff
Yeah.
that you just have to figure out. It's a rite of passage, and we had to find a place where people were prepared to answer that without ripping you apart. I found there are many Facebook groups that are not that patient, not that welcoming
Oh
to
yeah.
the dumb newbie questions,
Oh
which
yeah.
we all have.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and that's how we learned as well. And that's why, when we do stuff like people ask questions, I'm happy to answer the basic stuff if I
Yeah.
can, because I had to learn it the hard way. So,
Yeah. So the community, if anybody doesn't know what the community is, the community started as a paid community. And we had really a core group of maybe 10 people that was the foundation of that community. It's called the CNC Inner Circle. And that's what Paul's referring to is that community. And that started almost 3 years ago now.
yeah, we've been
Uh,
about 2.5 years.
Yep. And so 6 months ago or so, I made the decision to go to make that a free community and to reach more people, to get more people in. And we still have, our founding members section, and we still keep that the original group, like really kind of we try to keep, engaged in that. But the community is completely free now, and it's over 700 people. And the reason I share that is because, like, this is 700 people that are interested in making money with CNC. Uh, and but that all it trickles down to the basics as well, like how to operate a CNC. We have channels about all different kinds of things in there. And what this it does, it's a curated feed basically. Where if you want to learn about something CNC related, you can go to the community and you don't have to search for hours. You can get more of a hard answer,
Yeah.
straightforward answer in the community than you can anywhere. And
Cuts out
that's
a lot of that YouTube time of trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad.
yep,
Yeah, I
yep,
mean, we still ask dumb questions all the time. We
yep.
still
And I
answer
do
dumb
too.
questions all the time. Yeah, that's what
Yep.
it's for. No, it's been
Uh,
invaluable to us. I mean, I know we're a small, one use case, but for us, that community was game changing for our business, because
yep.
we could ask everything from why did my bit slip to how do I write an email marketing letter on a Tuesday. It's the whole range.
It's been great, and I appreciate you guys being a part of the group, and that community goes as the members go, and so I appreciate you all being in there and sharing and learning, because if one person has a question, multiple people have that question.
Hmm.
And so it's been really, really good. So I'll leave a link down in the description if anybody wants it. Check it out. Jump in. We want to meet you. We're working on some really cool things behind the scenes too, some opportunities, and we're going to grow this community into the CNC hub of the internet. We probably are the biggest, other than Facebook groups. I'm trying to think. We're probably the biggest. We're definitely the biggest CNC like business centric group on the internet.
Yeah, it's not all technical. It's not all
Yeah.
how do I make this, do this, how does this done? It's everything, and that's why our business changed.
Yeah.
Was we learned lessons about how to run the business, which has nothing to do with how to operate a CNC necessarily.
Right.
It's
Right.
why we bought a big old laser that's sitting in the garage, because it was like, okay, there's an opportunity here for the business. Let's
Yeah.
invest. Let's grow. Let's do it.
That's great. All right. So let's move on to selling. This is one of your pain points when you first got started. And by the way, I'm really like hammering on like where you started, because at
Mhm.
the end I want to get to the point of like where you are now, and to show that transformation of look, we started without knowing woodworking, and this is what we're getting ready to do next week, which is
Got
your
it.
biggest event of the year. Actually, your biggest event ever. You've never
Yep.
done it this long, right?
Nope.
So,
Nope.
so taking the time to do this, thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about sales channels and marketing and kind of how
Yeah.
you found traction there. So finding the right platforms, sales channels to sell your CNC products can be challenging. Everybody, that's a major pain point for a lot of people. Can you share your experiences with different sales platforms like Etsy, Shopify, craft fairs, and what you have found works best for you?
When we started, we were just making cutting boards. And who the hell wants to buy a cutting board? You can go to Walmart and buy one for $15, right? Who the hell cares? What really got us even thinking that it was a viable thing to sell cutting boards in the first place was we were working with a dog rescue charity that I volunteer for. We got our dog through. They needed a raffle to fundraise for a dog. So we were like, hey, for every $500 you raise, we'll give you a cutting board. We'll make you a cutting board for $500
Nice.
raised in the raffle, and it will be a prize in your raffle. And they were like, great, that's awesome. On the back of just our cutting boards, they ended up raising $3,500 and paying off the dog's vet bills. And we had people from there reaching out to us saying, hey, I didn't win, but I'd like to buy one of your cutting boards. Could you make me one? And that
That's
made
really
us
cool.
go, hang on, people actually like this stuff, so let's make cutting boards. We had no idea if we wanted to do anything more. It was just cutting boards and like live edge charcuterie boards. So we went to a craft fair. It was actually run by the dog rescue charity at a brewery that they set up. We drove out there. We used a secondhand tent, like put out a folding table. We didn't even have a tablecloth. It was just, we just got going. And that craft fair, I won't say it was a big financial winner, but we made enough for us to go, oh, there's a thing here. So let's do that again, but let's learn. So we had the pop-up tent we had was red. And I figured out real quickly that everybody would pick up a cutting board and go outside the tent to look at it in sunlight because everything looked red under the tent. So I was like, okay, let's buy a white tent and let's put a cloth over the table. And maybe let's get some easels from Hobby Lobby to stand these boards up instead. And so we just started iterating. We started doing craft fairs, just local fairs, things that weren't a long drive, that were, $30, $50 entry fees, that maybe had 20 to 50 vendors, nothing massive, nothing huge. And then over that first year, we figured out more products to add, things the CNC could do, because 6 months in, we bought the CNC. So we started doing, okay, let's go to all the various file vendors and let's get their whiskey smokers, let's get their wine balancers, let's get their glass caddies, and all the different random CNC projects that are fairly ubiquitous once you start digging and looking at what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
We've made some signs, just stuff you can do on the CNC that was fun to make, sometimes inexpensive. We'd make regional stuff. We'd make signs for the towns near us. Nice. And we just started going to craft fairs. We just asked other vendors for recommendations when we were at them. We followed, if it was a successful fair, we felt like we did well, we would follow that organizer or that venue and go back later in the year. We found the magic of fall in New England, where your craft fair attendance shoots up 5 times, 10 times when it's when you've got the leaves and the temperatures come down a bit and everybody's coming outside again from the summer. So
something you just said right there, I want to highlight. You followed event organizers. I think that is a unique angle that a lot of people don't do. So if someone doesn't understand what that is there are these people that are basically the organizers of these craft fairs, events, and sometimes they only do one event, like they that's just their event. But sometimes they do multiple events at the same location throughout the year or different locations. And what you're saying is you found event organizers that knew what they were doing. And you had a good experience with, and you said, okay, where is their next event? Because I know they're going to do a good job in marketing this. People are going to show up and it's going to be a quality event.
In our case, they were at the same locations, 2 of them, but there were other people using that location that we just didn't bother with. It was the organizer that made the difference, because they knew how to market. They knew how to get it in front of people. They knew how to communicate that, hey, this is somewhere you should go for quality, locally made product and not a flea market or a craft sale or something, like some much more lower tier.
Yeah.
That sounds nasty the way to say it, but
Low quality.
low quality. They made the event something a bit more. Yeah, we kind of got in our heads early on that we didn't want to go to a craft fair that was a craft fair for the craft fair's sake. If there's nothing else happening but the craft fair, people aren't necessarily coming out, and if they do, they're not coming out to spend. But if they're going to an event at a local brewery or a local apple orchard, and there's face painters for the kids and hay rides, and they've got music, and there's a brewery there, and if you've got something that's an event that people are just going to come out so they can spend a day at this location, and oh, by the way, there's a craft fair going on, they are much more likely to buy gifts, to buy for themselves, for their family. They're much more interested in having a walk around because they've got a beer in their hand and the kids are in the park and they're having fun, than if they've just come out to browse a craft fair. So we'd avoid like the church parking lot or the high school gym kind of events.
In that situation, you said they're much more likely to buy like gifts or things like that. So I always preach, we need to align our products with our customers, and that's what you're doing. You're aligning it with the organizer, who is going to bring people that are going to be interested. But have you found any specific? I know you've sold a lot of different things. Is there something in that scenario where people are willing to either a price point or a niche, or you mentioned gifts, like that people are looking for in that scenario?
People who are buying gifts, that gift can be for themselves, right? So the way I looked at it was, we're selling wooden product, like it's made out of hardwoods, it's made out of walnuts, and it's pretty, it's attractive, and people don't buy pretty attractive things when the alternative is functional. They don't. If they could go to Walmart and buy a cutting board for $15, you need to justify that $85 price point for a Paduke walnut, blended board. You need to justify why your board is worth so much more than buying something pretty commoditized. So we always leaned into the gift. You're buying it for a friend, a family member, or even treating yourself. And that's how I'd always say it at craft fairs, was treat yourself. Buy yourself something nice. Why go and spend $15 on a plastic board from Walmart when you can have a $75 board that's going to last you so much longer, look really pretty, be attractive. You can stand it up in the corner and you hang it up. If it's a charcuterie board, we put a leather strap on it so you can hang it and display it in your kitchen. Like, it looks nice. It's pretty.
You're not gonna do that to your Walmart cutting board. Well, maybe, right, but not as
not because it's pretty.
Right.
So that way, the kind of people who are looking, the people who just wanted a cheap board to use, are going to move right on. They're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to look for cutting boards at a craft fair. They're going to do something else. But the people who are like, that would look really nice. I've just refinished the cabinets. It's going to blend in. Or, so-and-so's just bought a new house. This is be a nice housewarming gift.
Yeah.
It changes the conversation from, here's a thing you should buy to use, to here's something nice. Treat yourself. Buy a gift for yourself. Buy a gift for Christmas is coming. It's Thanksgiving,
And that's where we get into values perceived, right? Like, and it's perceived differently by everybody.
Yeah, because they don't care whether the cutting board's functional. Of course it's functional. It's a flat piece of wood. They know they can use it.
Right.
So there's no kind of utility conversation being had at all. Maybe if we added a juice groove, or it was oversized, we might have a conversation around. In fact, our most expensive cutting board we ever sold was massive, and it was sold specifically to somebody who wanted to carve their Thanksgiving turkey on it. And that was the conversation we had, was this is a utility board that's specifically for a need they were looking for. But generally speaking, it's all about, look, this is a pretty board that's going to bring decor into your home. It's going to give off a certain look, and it's less about whether it's functional, because that's the $15 board from Walmart.
Yeah, it comes back to that saying of sell. One of the things you learn really quickly, if you're going to be successful at selling, is sell the benefit, not not the features,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
What's the benefit to the customer? And, like, honestly, like, that's what they're looking for. That's what they put value in, because at the end of the day, like, they probably can go get the same item somewhere
Yeah.
else cheaper.
Well, and you need to be flexible because I mean we don't do cutting boards anymore.
Mhm,
There's a
mhm.
reason. It's because we go to every craft fair and there'd be somebody else selling the same thing. So you have to fight against other makers. You have to now compete with the price point for the guy who's retired and doesn't need to make a profit because all he's doing is staying out of his wife's way every day.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's a difficult world to play in if you're just doing something that straightforward. So you've got to be flexible, and that's where the CNC comes in because it opens up the world to make shaped stuff, different things, and as we're doing now, games, because we just followed what people were buying and looked at what
Yeah.
we were selling and followed
Yeah,
that.
let's go into that a little bit. Let's talk about, how you decided to move, from cutting boards
Mhm.
to, and all the variations of cutting boards, different things, uh, to now you're selling game boards. Talk about that
Yeah.
transition, and a little bit more, and um, yeah, how you made that transition.
So cribbage is to blame. Um, Cribbage, for a lot of people who may not be aware, is a card game that uses pegs to track your scoring. And it seems to be a rite of passage for a lot of woodworkers and especially CNC makers is to make a cribbage board, which is just a
And
piece of wood.
you're the biggest cribbage board fan, like the biggest cribbage player there is, aren't you?
Um, yeah, I've played it twice. I know how to play it because I've read the instruction sheet we give everybody a dozen times. But no,
No,
we
I think
weren't
that's a great
game board. But yeah,
I think it's a
yeah,
great
we
point.
don't
Is
play.
like you are giving the market what
Yeah,
they want,
yeah.
and
There
not
was no
necessarily what
follow
you
up
want.
passion. Yeah, there was no passion behind making the board. It was a lot of CNC makers will make a cribbage board and then put it out next to their cutting boards and flight boards and whatnot and just sit it on the table and it never sells. But we noticed that people were picking them up and looking at them. At our second ever craft fair, it is when it all started for us because we were at a location. It was an airfield. It was a big craft day, and it was an older population. And cribbage is generally seen as an older person's game. We're in New England. It's very popular up here in the Northeast. And a lot of these older people were picking it up, flipping it over, and sharing stories about it. That they
Mm,
remembered playing with their grandparents. They remembered their mom teaching them how to count with it. And they were all flipping the boards over to look at the back. And I got to the point mid-afternoon. I was like, "Do you mind me asking, what are you looking for? Like when you look at the back of that cribbage board, what is it you're looking for?" And they said, "Well, somewhere to put the pegs." And apparently that's just a thing every cribbage board had, but we
mm,
didn't know. So we went home and we redesigned our cribbage board file so that we could flip it over and put the pegs on the back. We figured out how to hold the pegs in. We went through a whole iteration process of making the boards different because you can go to Rockler and buy a template for a cribbage board and just
mhm,
use a drill press and poke a load of holes in a board. If we've got a CNC, we can put other things on it. So we
mhm.
did. We put a start line and we put decor and we put, marking lines. And the next fair we were at, people started asking, where are the skunk lines? Where's the skunk marker? I'm like, the what? so so I pick up
Yeah,
my
yeah.
phone, I search for skunk marker, and I find out that that's something that you put on a cribbage board. So we put skunk markers and we put double skunk markers on them. And now we have a design that you can't make without a CNC because it's got two detailed engravings on it and is uniquely ours. It's not one that we pulled off Etsy. It's something we've developed over time. And cribbage became something that we thought, well, so a message you always gave us back a year or 2 years ago was find a
Mhm,
niche,
mhm,
right? And this is being the key for us for our business was we had to find a niche, and the cutting board people weren't the niche. Fortunately, the business name didn't have to change because we just went from Bees boards meaning cutting boards and charcuterie boards to Bees boards meaning cribbage boards and game boards.
mhm.
So we started making cribbage boards. We made big ones, little ones, expensive ones, inexpensive ones, folding ones. And we started going to craft fairs where we had more and more and more cribbage boards and less and less and less of the other stuff. And for us, that came to a huge culmination last summer. We were at an event over the winter, and somebody said, "Hey, do you make a lot of these boards?" And it was a cribbage board we designed that had the just Massachusetts in the cribbage board, epoxy filled in the cribbage board. And he goes, "This is really nice. Do you make a lot of them?" And I'd made probably 2 at the time, and I was like, "Sure, yes, I can,
yeah.
absolutely, of course, I can make a lot of them. Yep, no problem."
And so this is a good lesson right here. You didn't
Never
lie.
say no.
No. So when you are in business and you are trying to grow, like every business should,
Yeah.
and someone asks you, "Do you make a lot of these?" Like, it doesn't have to be I've made 1,000 of these, because I think the normal person's asked, it'd be like, "No, I don't make a lot of them. I've only
Yeah.
made 2." I'll let you continue here, because that
Absolutely.
literally could have changed,
Yep.
been a huge missed opportunity.
Yep. Because the guy that was asking was one of the building managers for the Massachusetts building at the Big E, and he invited us to apply for a spot at the Big E. And for those who don't know, the Big E is the 3rd largest agricultural fair in the country, biggest on the East Coast. It's a 17-day long event. It's actually just started, and it's going to run until September 29th. It's monstrously huge. On
Millions of people.
a quiet day, they will see 50,000 people through the gates, and their busiest day will see 160,000 people through the gates. And that goes for 17 days straight. So it's a monstrous event. So we decided, because he looked at our stuff and he didn't say, "Oh, those are nice cutting boards," or "That's a really nice piece of barware," or "That sign's really pretty." Instead, he picked up on the cribbage board, because it was a unique product that he felt represented, Massachusetts, because it was an invite from Mass Building, Massachusetts, and he wanted to see it at the event.
Let's stop right there for a second and just recap how this played out, how you got this opportunity. You were at a different event, right?
Yep, totally different. It was just our local Apple Orchards fall craft fair. It was actually probably right after Thanksgiving last 2022.
And was this one of these events with that organizer that you went to several times?
Yep, we still follow her today. She runs the events at this Apple Orchard.
The guy that is the building manager. So if you didn't know, the Big E, how many buildings are there? There's how many New England states?
There are 6 buildings. So you have, hang on, no, they don't have a New York one. There's 5 buildings. So Rhode Island, Mass, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut as well. So Connecticut as well, and then Vermont and Maine.
And so it's basically a culmination of talent from the state, and they want to put the best, unique collection of everything from the state in each building. And these buildings are massive too, right?
The buildings are pretty big. Yeah, they're replicas. So the way it works, so the big the state buildings are just a piece of the Big E. This isn't the Big E. Like, this is just a corner of the Big E. Each of the state buildings is a replica of the actual state building of those states that they represent. Awesome. And for the 17 days of the Big E, each one is run like a little state embassy. They run under their own state sales laws, tax laws. They're policed by their own police. And for that 17-day window, it is the only place in the country where you can cross the border of 6 states in about 15 minutes. Because you can just walk down the road and you have officially crossed 6 states, because they're run like little embassies.
Nice.
And each one operates independent. They run their own process, but the Massachusetts building, they are representing Massachusetts craft, small business, and agriculture. So they have, orchards in there. They have honey makers, maple, that kind of stuff. But they also crafters, makers, food vendors, that kind of thing.
So the guy, the building manager of the Massachusetts building, you caught his eye, and I think this is such a great story. I know you and B probably have. It's hard to have perspective when you're in the trenches, but like from my perspective, it like blows me away that you started where you did.
Hmm.
And I say blow me away, not that I'm like I need to clarify that. Not like blown away by your success, but blown away by like and that it's rare because this is
Hmm.
completely replicable. But I'm blown
Yeah.
away that you all were so opportunistic and these opportunities weren't linear. Like I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And that's not how business works.
Yeah.
But you continue to put yourself out there and I don't know if you noticed you said it several times, but you observed, you
Oh
looked,
yeah.
you learned, you implemented, and that's how like you got into the third largest event uh, in the country. Talk a little bit about here. Um, the Big E is next week for you, and
Yes.
what that looks like. If you can give us an idea on like how long you're going to be there, rough number of how many products you're preparing to bring,
Hmm.
and this is your second year, right?
Second year. Yeah. This will be our
Uh,
second year.
and kind of project just to give an idea based on last year, like how much money revenue you expect to bring in.
So last year we did 4 days. So the way, even though the event's a 17-day event, they do offer the ability for smaller crafters who can't commit to a full 17 days to come and do sections. So last year we did 4 days, and all we took was cribbage boards. We took nothing but cribbage boards. Um, from a revenue point of view, the quiet day was $1,500 revenue. The busiest days were more like four over those 4 days. And
Mhm.
that was only cribbage. Like we took nothing else. We came away from that 4 days thinking, okay, next year we need to go bigger. But we have a kid, we have a dog, we have a day job. I
You
can't
have a full
commit to
time, yeah.
17 days.
Yep.
So they came back and they offered us the space back again this year. And we said, can we do 5 days? And they went, you can, but that space is still open for the rest of that week. Do you just want to do all 7? So we're doing 7 days. We're doing Monday through Sunday. We're going to be just outside the mass building. If anyone happens to be there, if this is out in time, we're going to be between the main building and the mass building. If you look for the main potato line, we're next to that. So we're
Nice.
going to be the first thing people see when they're walking into the building is going to be us. And we have expanded our product range because once we did the Big E, we did cribbage. We did a couple of craft fairs that fall where we went back to doing everything. And it just didn't feel like a good fit anymore. We were like, no, we've got so much cribbage focus now. Let's focus on this. So we started making other games and prototyping games. All last winter, we prototyped travel chess and travel backgammon and big chess and little games, kids games. Like we've got 7 or 8 games that we do now
Mm.
on the CNC, on the laser, hardwoods, plywoods, resin, paws. I mean, all kinds of things now. And so we're going in for a full 7-day window. We are currently at about 600 items of product, I think, for that
Wow.
7 days. Just shy of 600 items. We don't know if that's too many or not enough. That's we know what we sold last year from cribbage.
Yep. Yep.
I have no idea if that's going to change, grow, or drop if we do other games.
Yeah.
We'll find out. That's part of this whole process is we will find out.
Yep.
Projection wise, I mean, if we come out the week with 7 or 8,
What is yeah, what's your
yeah,
goal? Just like what's your goal?
survive.
That's fair. That's fair.
They're
These
very
days,
long days. They are 9 a.m. till 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. days, 7 days in a
12-hour
row.
days, 7 of them in a
Yeah.
row.
No, it's not a 12-hour day. We have to be there before it opens, and we
Oh,
have
that's
to
true.
shut down after it closes. So
Yeah.
it's a long day.
Yep.
We're actually flying my dad over from the UK to help us. So we have a third person because you can't do it with 2 people,
Yeah.
and he's cheap compared to hiring help. So, so if we came away with 7, 8 to 10 grand of revenue, that would be amazing. That would be
Yeah.
great for us. I mean, at the end of the day, we know our pricing will make us a profit. And we have other events coming up that we're going to be game specific. We now consider ourselves a game board maker. We don't focus on any other stuff. So if we don't sell the product we're taking, we have another event 6 weeks later that's a big event that we've jumped feet deep, feet first into. We've got no idea how it'll be,
Yeah,
but
that's the Mohegan Sun.
it's a Christmas market at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
one of the big Christmas craft fairs on the East Coast that we put on our radar, and we're like, sure, let's go for it. It's it's a bit expensive event to get into,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it means if we don't sell the product, we can still, you know,
yeah.
we know what our
What?
costs at the Big E are going to be.
Good.
I
Yeah.
suspect the way the Big E tends to go, we'll have made those costs back by Wednesday.
Mm, mhm.
So after
Yeah.
that, it's whatever's happens.
So what happens when, if you sell all your product, you don't have anything for the Mohegan Sun?
I spent 6 weeks making chessboards and cribbage boards and panicking, which I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. So
Yeah,
situation pretty normal. The
yeah,
Biggie's going to be a break. No, it's. I mean, we decided earlier in the year that we're going to focus on being prepared and get everything done early. And here we are a week prior, and I was up till midnight last night making tic-tac-toe boards.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so much for that.
Well, my advice is to trust your instincts. They have proved to be right. And if you're off on anything, obviously you'll learn and
Mhm.
adapt and do it better next time. I think,
Yeah.
so many
Well,
times we put pressure on ourselves to get it perfect.
oh
When it
yeah, no, we had our freak out about a month ago of we don't have enough, but maybe we have too much. But what if we don't have enough? And maybe we got too much of this, but not of that.
Yep,
And
yep.
we started talking to a business coach earlier this year,
Mm,
and he's like, okay, he's like, so the way to handle this stress is to have an out either way. If you have too much, what's your out? If you have too little, what's your out?
yep,
So we've come up with a plan that if we have too much, we're going to make a little sign that is a buy two, get one free, and do a 3 for 2 sign and move
I love that.
sales by having a sale. And
Yep,
if we have not enough, then we keep a couple back, and we have a method of taking orders for shipping and offer free shipping and have a
yep.
process to be able to ship as soon as the event's done. So
Yeah,
that's
it's smart.
that took a huge stress off us for the planning, was to have an out whichever way it goes. We have a
Yeah.
way to tolerate it and cope with it.
Yeah, you have a backup plan. Well, this has been great. Thank you for sharing your journey. I think
No.
people are going to really resonate with this. A lot of people see this video.
Hmm.
Uh, how can they find you? And if they want to buy a game board for
Hmm.
their loved ones for their holidays, how can they do that? And how
Yeah.
can they do that?
So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and our own website. We're beesboardsma.com, beesboardsma on the social medias. I have a TikTok account, but I'm too old to know how to use TikTok. I just watch cat videos, and that's my TikTok experience pretty much. So I don't know how to do all that stuff. Andy has no worry about us starting a YouTube channel or anything like that. No thanks. So yeah, but anything on our website's in stock. We we do custom orders. We can ship custom orders pretty fast, especially stuff coming off the laser. But I think that something you said earlier that I wanted to reiterate: we're not coming into this with anything special. Like we're not. I don't have a background in retail sales. We don't have a woodworking background. We come away from every event, and as we're driving back, we sit and chat with each other and say, "So what worked? What didn't work?" And we make notes. And when we do a new event, we look at those notes and we're like, okay, that table layout was crap. Let's do something different. That sign kept falling over. Let's leave that at home. Um, we just iterate. And that's all it
Yeah.
is everything we do, every event we do, even when we're making product. We had a disaster with one product. With the way we designed it and sold it last year, something wasn't working on it. So I took 50 cribbage boards and trashed them and started again and made a new design that fixed the problem and is a much better layout. So just always iterate, adapt, just figure out what is and isn't working and change it. That's all we've done.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice. And I think what you and B have, what kind of carries you through is your passion for creating
Hmm.
and your, but also your eagerness to learn and grow, and that has served you well, is like, okay, how can we, like, even if something went well, like how can we improve? How can we do better? And
Oh yeah.
that's a characteristic I see in every successful business person that I've ever talked to, is they're constantly learning, and it's not there's no finish line.
Right.
You know, it's just like, yeah, we're gonna evolve and grow, and that's how we're gonna do it. And I think that's
That's
you guys should
key
be
for
proud of
us as
that.
well.
And
It's about the experience. I mean, you just asked what are our goals for the Big E, and I joked about saying just get through, but it's really about the experience. Like I don't really have a financial goal for the Big E.
yeah,
Break even is great. Make some money is better.
yeah,
But
eat a
it's the experience.
cucumber pizza or
Oh my
dill
God,
pickle
yeah.
pizza.
Or a half-pound mozzarella stick. Um,
Hey,
you know, it's
yeah,
cream puffs every day. That's the Big E. The food is part of the process.
yeah, yeah, that's great.
It's the experience. I mean, we're having fun, and like we've done with all of our previous maker hobbies, when it stops being fun, we move on.
Move on to something else. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's it.
Well, cool. Well, and again, I want to reiterate, you can jump in the community. A link will be down in the description, and you can chat with Paul as he has time.
Yeah,
But you
not
can
next
ask any
week.
question. You can ask. You can ask any questions. I'm in there, and we have a great group, a core group of people that are willing to help and share and grow. And that's the whole point of ANDYBIRD Builds, is to support each other and help each other make more money with our CNCs. So, Paul, thank you so much for your time. Keep up the great
You're
work,
welcome. Thank you.
and we'll see you soon.
You will.